If you ever find yourself face to face with one of history's most infamous relics, well, think twice before reaching out. Some of the world's most breathtakingly fascinating objects don't just carry history, they carry something far worse. Curses, misfortunes, unexplained tragedies, call it what you want, but the stories behind these objects are enough to make even skeptics uneasy. Some finds rewrite history. These rewrite destinies. From cursed diamonds to cursed mummies, here are the 15 most dangerous objects you won't believe were ever found. Let's kick off this list with number 15, the Blarney Stone. Kissing the Blarney Stone is said to grant the gift of eloquence. Taking a piece of it, however, invites nothing but bad luck. For centuries, visitors to Blarney Castle in Ireland have lined up to kiss the famous stone, hoping for a silver tongue. But every so often, someone decides they need a little souvenir. And that's when the trouble starts. People who steal a piece of the Blarney Stone often report strange misfortunes, financial ruin, job loss, and even depression. Realizing their mistake, many send their stolen pieces back, hoping to reverse the curse. The castle regularly receives letters from remorseful tourists begging for forgiveness, along with chunks of stone they wish they'd never taken. Moral of the story? Kiss the rock if you must, but leave it where it belongs. Otherwise, you might be mailing it back with an apology letter of your own. Number 14, the Black Orloff. A black diamond already sounds ominous, but the Black Orloff takes things to a whole new level. Originally known as the Eye of Brahma, this gem was allegedly stolen from a Hindu shrine by a rogue monk. If that sounds like the setup for a bad ending, that's because it was. Over the years, the diamond passed through the hands of multiple women, many of whom leaped to their deaths from tall buildings. Two of its most well-known owners, Russian princesses Leonila Galitzine and Nadia Vegan Orlov, both met the same tragic fate. Eventually, the Black Orlov was recut and sold to a jeweler in New York, who supposedly broke the curse. Whether that's true or not, the jewel's history is enough to make most people think twice before slipping it on a ring. Number 13, Uluru Rocks. Uluru isn't just a giant rock in the Australian outback, it's a sacred site. And while most visitors are content to admire its beauty, some get the bright idea to pocket a piece as a souvenir. Big mistake. Tourists who take rocks from Uluru often find themselves haunted by misfortune, bad luck, sudden illness, financial ruin. Feeling the weight of their mistake, many mail their stolen rocks back with letters of apology. Some even beg for forgiveness from the spirits of the land. It's become such a common phenomenon that the national park receives packages from all over the world, filled with regretful travelers' cursed keepsakes. Maybe it's superstition. Maybe it's just karma. Either way, Uluru is best left untouched. If you ever visit it, please stay away from it because life is very short, and one wrong or reckless move of yours can make it more shorter. Number 12, the Iceman. Well, we've talked a lot about this dude in our previous videos, but the interesting thing is that we never really asked, is Ötzi the Iceman actually cursed? Well, depends on how much you believe in coincidences. Discovered in 1991 in the Alps, Ötzi is a 5,000-year-old mummy who was preserved so perfectly that scientists were able to analyze his last meal, his tattoos, and even his fatal injury, an arrow to the shoulder. Everything about this guy was pretty normal. But here's where things get weird. Over the next 13 years, 7 people linked to his discovery died under strange circumstances. One researcher died in a car crash on his way to give a lecture about Ötzi. A mountaineer was wiped out by an avalanche. Another expert fell off a cliff. Science says there's no such thing as a curse, but if you were part of the original discovery team, you might disagree. Maybe some things, or some people, were never meant to be disturbed. Number 11. The Woman from Lemb statue. Some artifacts belong in museums, Others belong far, far away from human hands. This limestone statue falls into the second category. The first family that owned it, dead within years. The second, same fate. By the time the fourth family met their untimely end, the only surviving member decided they weren't about to be next. Thinking fast, they donated it to a museum, because why not let total strangers deal with the problem? Unfortunately, the curse wasn't picky. The museum's curator, the first person to handle it, was mysteriously murdered a few days later. Whether this statue is cursed, haunted, or just carrying a streak of horrifying coincidences, one thing's clear: if you see it, don't touch it. And if you do touch it, maybe start drafting your will. It is found in Cyprus, but we don't get one thing: who designed it? Just look at it. It's not even a lady. Number 10. The Delhi Purple Sapphire. Some gemstones bring wealth and fortune, and yes, a charm to your personality. Now, if we talk about this one, well, it just brings suffering. The so-called Delhi Purple Sapphire isn't even a sapphire, it's an amethyst. But that's the least of its problems. Looted from an Indian temple in the 1800s, the stone quickly gained a reputation for ruining lives. Owners reported financial ruin, illness, and disaster. Author Edward Heron Allen, one of its most famous victims, was so tormented by misfortune that he hurled it into a canal, only to have it returned to him. He finally gave up and locked it in a bank vault, along with a warning: no one should touch it for at least 3 years after his death. It now sits in the Natural History Museum in London, safely behind glass. But if history has taught us anything, cursed objects have a way of finding new victims. Number 9. The Hope Diamond. As once a wise man said, "Don't be fooled by anyone with a name like Hope." This is very true for this ill-fated diamond. The Hope Diamond is one of the most famous gems in the world, but before it landed in the Smithsonian, it had a bloody past. Supposedly stolen from a Hindu temple, the jewel's first known thief was caught and tortured to death. That set the tone for what was to come. French merchant Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, one of its early owners, was said to have been mauled by a pack of wild dogs. WTH, Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, beheaded. Washington Post owner Edward McLean lost his fortune, his wife, and his son in rapid succession. Of course, skeptics claim the curse is just a series of tragic coincidences hyped up by history. But considering its track record, the fact that it's now locked away in a museum might be the safest option for everyone. Number 8. Maori warrior masks. The Maori people of New Zealand carved warrior masks before battle, believing that the souls of fallen warriors would take refuge in them. These masks hold immense spiritual significance, but if you're a pregnant or menstruating woman, you might want to keep your distance. According to Maori belief, the masks carry a curse that only affects women in those states, bringing illness, misfortune, or worse. This isn't just ancient superstition either. A museum in England even posted a warning, advising women to avoid them entirely. While skeptics scoff at the idea of a selective curse, plenty of visitors have reported sudden nausea, dizziness, and unexplained accidents after ignoring the warning. Whether it's a psychological suggestion or something more, the masks remain an eerie reminder that some traditions aren't meant to be challenged. If you're visiting a museum and see a warrior mask on display, maybe give it a respectful nod and a little extra space. Number 7. The Catskills Crone. A group of hikers exploring the Catskills stumbled upon a peculiar voodoo figurine and, out of curiosity, decided to bring it home. What started as an innocent discovery quickly spiraled into a chilling ordeal. The figurine soon gained notoriety on Reddit as the hikers shared their experiences with what turned out to be one of the most disturbing cursed objects ever encountered. After taking the statue, the hikers began noticing an eerie, swampy odor filling their space. Their nights were plagued by loud bangs, unsettling noises, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Shadows seemed to move and linger whenever they were alone with the figure, heightening their fear. Ultimately, the figurine was handed over to a paranormal museum, where it remains to this day, shrouded in mystery and unease. Number 6. Koh-i-Noor diamond. A diamond this massive should be a symbol of pure luxury, but the Koh-i-Noor isn't just any jewel, it's a 109-carat minefield of bad luck for men. Supposedly stolen from the Hindu god Krishna, the diamond has changed hands through conquest, betrayal, and sheer bloodshed for centuries. And every time a man has claimed it, disaster has followed. Sher Shah Suri, a powerful ruler who seized the diamond after defeating Prince Humayun, was blown up in a freak cannon explosion. His son, Jalal Khan, barely had time to enjoy his inheritance before being murdered by his own brother-in-law. The list goes on. Realizing the pattern, the British royal family decided only women should wear it. Today, it sits among the British crown jewels, exclusively passed down to queens and consorts. Whether that's superstition or strategy, one thing's certain: no king has dared to test the curse. Number 5. Crying boy painting. A painting of a teary-eyed child shouldn't be terrifying, but the crying boy isn't just an innocent piece of decor. It's a fireproof omen of disaster. In the 1980s, firefighters in England started noticing something strange. Homes with the crying boy painting kept burning to the ground. Furniture, ash, walls, charred. But the painting? Completely untouched. Over and over again, fires destroyed everything, except this haunting artwork. Panic spread, and soon people were ditching the painting in droves. Some even claimed that merely owning it brought bad luck. Was it cursed? Was it coated in some bizarre flame-resistant varnish? No one knows. Eventually, a mass burning was organized to destroy the remaining prints because apparently, the only way to fight fire with fire is more fire. Today, copies still exist, but if you ever come across one, maybe just leave it in the thrift store. Number 4. The Basano vase. A wedding gift should bring good luck, not a lifetime of horror. Unfortunately, this silver vase did the exact opposite. The bride who received it never even got to enjoy it. She was found dead on her wedding night, the vase still clutched in her hands. From there, things spiraled fast. Every family that inherited it lost multiple loved ones, and as the deaths stacked up, the vase became less of a family heirloom and more of a game of hot potato with fatal consequences. When it resurfaced in 1988, museums flat out refused to take it. That's right. Institutions filled with skulls, sarcophagi, and medieval torture devices wanted nothing to do with this thing. So where is it now? Well, let's say no one knows. Some say it was buried in a lead coffin, locked away forever. Others think it's still out there, waiting for its next unlucky owner. Now, let's move to Number 3. The dybbuk box. Old wooden cabinets shouldn't be terrifying, and yet this one might be the worst thing ever sold at an estate sale. In 2001, an unsuspecting buyer took it home, only to be hit with violent nightmares, disturbing whispers, and an overwhelming sense of dread. His solution? He gave it to his mother. She suffered a stroke the same day. Every new owner reported the same horrifying experiences. Strange smells, shadowy figures, unexplained injuries. Eventually, it was identified as a dybbuk box, a container for a malevolent spirit straight out of Jewish folklore. No one knows how old it really is or why it's so insistent on ruining lives, but it's since been sealed away. That hasn't stopped copies from popping up for sale online, though. So if you ever see an antique wooden box listed as mysterious or haunted, just buy a normal wine rack instead. Number 2. The Terracotta Army. Unearthing an army of thousands of life-sized clay soldiers sounds like something straight out of an adventure movie. But for the farmers who discovered the Terracotta Army in 1974, It was less of a jackpot and more of a disaster. One minute they were digging a well, and the next they had uncovered the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. A discovery like that should have changed their lives for the better, except it did the exact opposite. The government quickly seized the land, demolishing homes and displacing families to make way for excavation. The farmers, who had unknowingly stumbled upon one of the greatest archaeological finds of all time, were left with nothing. Some ended up begging for money, while others faded into obscurity. This site reveals a lot of secrets, like a high-ranking general, the first of its kind in 30 years, clay horses, and additional warriors. But as of now, 2025, China stopped everything. They said there are rivers of mercury and death traps, and it is filled with unknown creatures. So that's why they stopped. Number 1. The Belcourt Castle Chairs. Most haunted objects are easy to avoid. Just don't touch the creepy old doll or pick up the cursed artifact. But haunted furniture? That's just unfair. Inside Belcourt Castle in Rhode Island, a set of antique chairs has been causing chaos for years. Stand too close, and you might feel a cold rush of air. Sit down, and you might be shoved off by something invisible. Visitors have reported an overwhelming feeling of energy surrounding them, like the chairs themselves don't want to be used. Some believe the chairs once belonged to the nobility, absorbing centuries of emotions, arguments, and power struggles. Others think something much darker has taken up residence in them. Either way, if you ever visit and feel a sudden urge to stand instead of sit, trust your instincts. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon in the next one.